Well, after some relative peace in southern Kaduna, there seemed to be a rise in killings in the area recently. Rampaging gunmen reportedly killed over 28 people in separate attacks in Malangum 1 and Sokwang communities of Kagadro Chiefdom in Kaura local government area of Kaduna State.
Meanwhile, there was also an unfortunate attack on farmers in the farm settlement at Amadi in Mbuji communities in Ehamufu Isi Uzo local government area by suspected herders. The Enugu state government has condemned in its entirety the dastardly act, which resulted in casualties, with some indigents of the communities left displaced.
And to look into these issues and more, we're now being joined by our Rise News analyst, Dr. Sam Amadi. Dr. Amadi, thank you so much for being here. Well, it's Christmas Day. We're supposed to be celebrating, but for some families, that is not the case because we're seeing the bloodshed, you know, in almost every geopolitical zone in the country. But I want to start with the one in southern Kaduna in particular, where over 40 people were buried during the course of the week. The fact that these killings have persisted. I remember 87, the Kafanchan crisis. Not forgetting the Zango Kataf one in 1992. Here we are, years and years after. It seemed like we're yet to uncover the root causes of these killings, and some would say maybe that's the reason why it's unabated.
Absolutely. I mean, before that, even 1948, thereabout, we've had this crisis. And their origin relates to geopolitics. You see, the Emirates, especially in Zaria, Southern Zaria, we had an incorporation of various ethnic groups, and of course the mostly dominant Hausa Fulani, and then the other ethnic groups. And so what we failed to do in this country, and that's the same pattern goes to the Yamufu, or we talk about Benue, talk about Zakibam, whatever it is. The problem is that we have failed to transform the relationship between communities and individuals in this country in the language of legal rights and citizenship. So, for example, these are quarrel over access to cultural rights. The one of Southern Kaduna has become so bad that it's now verging on a genocide. You know, definitions have come in. I mean, deliberate targeting of a people because of their religious, ethnic, or political identity is classical definition of genocide. So the question then is, what's the state's responsibility? Not forget those who want to kill themselves, I mean, on both sides. But the question is, if communities are being sacked daily, being killed in tens, the question you ask yourself is two things. Prevention. What is the government doing, the security formation? Two, audit. What happens after each of these unfortunate? Let's even assume it's not predictable and preventable. But when it does happen, do we see high-level government? You can record that not only the government of Kaduna State, in this particular instance, or the federal government at the highest level have taken clear, unambiguous statements around these issues. So the question then is, is there a constitutional failure of governance from local government, state to federal, and the Nigeria's armed forces, if you can't protect communities from attack in this dastard manner? So if you can't prevent it and you can't bring to justice those who commit that crime, then one can argue that's a total failure of constitutional obligation. It triggers a sense, perhaps, that people will feel that maybe we are a people who are now marked for death. If a state fails to defend its citizens, then the citizens can argue that they are defenseless and internationalize, asking for, under the international law, the right to protect. That means foreign countries can say, look, if a state perpetually fails to protect some people from mass violence that's deliberate or seemingly deliberate, then it can trigger a sense in which it can say there's a collapse of state responsibility to protect those people, and therefore the right of others to protect, and also can trigger some level of discussion around.
That's quite worrisome, because when you look at the first schedule, chapter 1 of the Nigerian Constitution is to protect, you know, the lives and property of the citizens, and now you're talking about state failure, which is very fundamental. You know, I mean, at this time, Christmas, we are discussing debts and what
And they happen in 2 days to Christmas Day.
Yeah, it's so heart-rending, heart-breaking. It's not sending out good signals to Nigerians in the diaspora, to the needed investors that this country really wants, to, you know, guaranteeing even the 2023 general elections. Look at Enugu State, the community or the area, Ohamafua, you know, and the killings there. More than 1,000 on the 22nd of this month. More than 51 people were killed.
The question you ask is, what has government done? Let me give an example. When some youths were killed in MNA, about 23 of them, I wrote to the governor myself. I said, Governor, you have a power of judicial inquiry.
To set it up.
He refused. I went to court, and we won the case at the High Court. Court says that it's a mandatory duty to institute a judicial inquiry. They want an appeal. So there's a gross irresponsibility. That's the first thing.
The government went to appeal.
To challenge a citizen saying, you have the right to make an investigation. So it's not a case of, I can't prevent. Okay, let's assume you can't prevent. How about inquiry?
How about find out what happens, the cause, so that you can prevent.
Exactly. So the Nigerian state now, the question for us is, build up to 2023. We have these pockets of organized violence and killings of citizens, not helped by the state to prevent, prosecute, investigate, audit. So the question then is, how are we going to continue in this crisis? And Amaka, you talked about the crisis, that this is perennial. It's because we have refused to solve the fundamental crisis of Nigerian state, which is a redefinition of the state from cultural, ethnic relationship to legal. What that means, therefore, is that the state becomes agnostic about ethnic affiliation. The state sees everybody as a citizen, no priority. And then the state takes action to curb this cultural nationalism. So you come to a place and people are fighting old wars. 1806 wars are being reenacted
over land.
And the state itself is captured. The state is captured by special interests, ethno-religious interests. I mean, at a level when the former defense chief, Danjuma, said that the Nigerian military itself is complicit. Whether it's true or not, that level of lack of confidence in the institution he himself symbolizes.
Mr. Dr. Amadi, as we wrap up this conversation, well, days into the new year, Nigerians will head to the polls in voting a new leader. How can we get better? What do we need to do right now to check these killings all across the country?
I think first, we need to get the principal special candidates themselves to even speak on these issues, to even show a sense of a formula. What is their idea about transcending this bloodbath? We can't be going to an election where the major candidates are not clueless about this crisis.
They're not concerned or showing enough concern
and secondly,
about it.
I think it's time now for someone to go to court and sue the Nigerian government, the Nigerian military, state and local, whether it's Enugu or Kaduna, for genocide or complicity, so that the courts can hold them responsible. Because if you don't protect the citizens and you don't care to find out who killed them and you don't prosecute those who killed them, then you are complicit in the killing of citizens. So I think it's now time to take the state responsible, hold it responsible, especially at the state level. And those places where this crisis persists, vote out the candidates or the parties. Because basically it's a failure of leadership that you can't control incident once, twice, 3 times. They keep going on, and you're not able to transform the substratum of the grievance, which means people are not allowed to own their life. We are still bringing cultural groups under some degree of bondage and dominance. And that's what happened from 1943, 48, up to 2002. Then how can you be a modern state that can attract investment? We're talking about macroeconomic development when you can't solve the simple, basic problem of living together.
Thank you so very much. It's so disheartening. Associate Professor of Law and a RISE analyst, Sam Amadi, about these wanton killings. And I think as we go into a new year, go into election here, and think of Nigeria's prosperity, these killings must be brought to an end.